Is it true that if you ask an undercover cop if they're a cop, they must answer truthfully? This common belief, no doubt popularized by Hollywood, is far from the truth. An undercover agent's primary role involves blending in, staying unnoticed, and quietly gathering necessary intelligence. They're under no obligation to reveal their professional persona. In case you're wondering, there are legal precedents that support this stance. Take the Illinois versus Perkins case of 1990, for example. This landmark case cemented the fact that an undercover officer is not compelled by law to disclose their identity, even when put on the spot. This is contrary to the popular belief that they must admit to being an officer if asked outright. Clearly, the law is not as black and white as it is often perceived to be. So while it may be a widely held belief that undercover cops are bound by some unwritten rule to divulge their identity when queried, the legal truth tells a different story. So it's time to rethink if you believe that an undercover officer must reveal their identity when. Now, what about the insanity defense? There's a common notion that an insanity plea can be a ticket out of criminal charges. In reality, the likelihood of pulling off a successful insanity defense is astonishingly small. It was predominantly underscored in a 1982 case, John Hinckley Jr., the man who attempted to assassinate President Ronald Reagan, successfully pleaded insanity. His case not only shocked the nation, but also tightened the laws surrounding this plea. This influx of stricter regulations and heightened standards for invoking the insanity defense resulted in a considerable decrease in its success rate. Today, shockingly, the percentage of felony cases where the insanity defense is successful hovers around only 1%. This effectively dismantles the widespread misconception. It's essential to note that various factors such as the severity of the crime, the skillfulness of defending lawyer, and the mental health condition of the defendant weigh heavily in the outcome. Today, merely about 1% of felony cases see a successful insanity defense. Another legal myth revolves around the belief that you can't be tried for the same crime twice, often referred to as double jeopardy. This widespread misunderstanding may stem from the surface-level interpretation of the law, but it isn't completely accurate. Delving deeper reveals a landmark court case that dared to challenge the status quo. Back in the year 1957, a case by the name of Bartkus versus Illinois fundamentally shook the legal world. Bartkus, the accused, was put on trial twice for the same crime, once by a state court and then by a federal court. This unique case scenario was nothing short of an anomaly in the legal field, a phenomenon that raised several questions. Legal scholars, experts, and enthusiasts alike were bewildered. Could this be the end of the double jeopardy principle? The case triggered a wave of discussions, led to countless debates, and necessitated intense contemplation within the legal community. The implications were far-reaching. It threatened to change the legal landscape forever. Amidst the turmoil, the Supreme Court was entrusted with the task of making a defining decision. Exploring the depths of legality and constitutionality, they rendered a verdict that would echo through the ages. Finally, the Supreme Court ruled that a person can be tried by a state court and then a federal court for the same crime. Have you ever pondered over the intriguing myth that possession is 9/10 of the law? The phrase often misleads people into believing that simply holding an item gives them legal ownership. However, it's not that straightforward. The concept of lawful possession is determined by more than just physical control. Various elements come into play: formal documentation, intellectual property rights, circumstances, and more. Take, for instance, a scenario where a person physically holds a piece of art. This doesn't directly mean they own it, especially if legal papers suggest otherwise. The law is complex and varied, with numerous factors playing a role in determining ownership. It's an intricate tapestry of rules, not just a simple case of finders keepers. Therefore, the belief that having something in your hands makes it legally yours is a gross oversimplification. Legal ownership is a nuanced concept, determined by various factors, not just mere possession. And finally, there's the myth that you can commit any crime if it's for the greater good. This belief, frequently romanticized in movies and literature, leads to warped views of justice and morality. It's crucial to dispel this misconception, as it can lead to harmful actions and dangerous justifications. While it's true that some legal cases might consider personal motives, the fundamentally disapproves of crimes committed for a so-called greater good. The reasoning is simple. The law is based on principles and rules designed to ensure fairness and justice. These principles are not meant to bend to subjective interpretations or individual perceptions of greater good. If they did, we would be living in a chaotic society where anyone could crimes by asserting that they were acting for the greater good. Take, for example, the court case, the People versus Unger. A man committed theft, believing his motives were noble. Perhaps he thought he was acting for a greater good, yet the court deemed his actions illegal. This clearly demonstrates that the law does not and should not consider the greater good as a valid defense. This showcases that the law does not consider the greater good as a valid defense. In conclusion, legal myths are just that. Myths. They spring forth from a melting pot of misunderstanding, misinformation, or an oversimplification of the complex world of laws and legalities. Reality is often glossed over. The truth is, the law is a multifaceted, intricate, and perplexing entity, with its countless rules, sub-rules, and tangents, all subject to interpretation, which can vary significantly depending on one's perspective or context. Legal misconceptions or myths are not only prevalent, but are often widely accepted as the gospel truth by the masses. This acceptance can be attributed to entertainment media, word of mouth, or even a lack of proper knowledge about the actual legal procedures and principles. These misconceptions cover a broad spectrum of beliefs. Citing a few examples, there are popular misconceptions about undercover cops needing to reveal their identities when asked. The insanity defense being a surefire way to avoid jail time, the principle of double jeopardy providing a free pass to repeat offenders, and the misguided notion that possession invariably equates to legal ownership. Even more intriguing is the concept of crime for the greater good. It is still considered as a crime in the eyes of the law. Each of these instances highlights the importance of questioning what we hear or assume about the law. So, the next time you hear a legal fact from a friend or a movie, take a moment to question it. Chances are it's more myth than... Before we conclude this enlightening journey through the labyrinth of legal myths, let's pause to contemplate. We have traversed through a cascade of legal complexities. We've rooted out common misconceptions that have been long imprinted in our mindsets about the law and its multifarious aspects. This labyrinth is intricate, dense, and often deceptive. It's easy to get lost in the web of legalities, misinterpretations, and false beliefs. Taken the initiative to debunk these myths, but the journey is far from over. Many more myths are lurking in the shadows, waiting to be illuminated and debunked. Our objective was not only to debunk the myths today, but also to spark a questioning attitude in your minds. The law is a dynamic and ever-changing field. It's important to not take things at face value and always dig deeper for the truth. If you enjoyed this video and wish to continue the journey of truth-seeking with us, we invite you to join our community of legal myth busters. Subscribing to our channel is a great way to keep updated on our future content. Don't forget to hit the bell icon. This will ensure that you never miss an update from us. Knowledge, after all, power, and it might just save you from legal blunders. Thank you for being a part of this journey today. Stay curious, stay informed, and as always, question everything.